What is going on, striper enthusiasts, anglers, fanatics? Welcome back to another year of On the Water's Striper Migration Reports. My name's Matt Hefner. I'll be your host for the next 14 weeks as we kind of run through the striper migration across the coast from Chesapeake Bay all the way up to northern New England, Maine, New Hampshire, that area. So we're going to have different input every week from different guests, as well as reports from CanyonRunner, our friends over there. They contributed to our offshore reports last year, and so we'll get a little bit of insight from them as to what's going on just along the coast as we go through this week-to-week report. So it was a colder winter with lots of ice fishing opportunities across the entire striper coast. We even saw a fair amount of resident stripers coming through the ice across southern New England in places like Rhode Island, Martha's Vineyard, Connecticut. Some of those resident fish were actually surpassing 20 pounds, so that was great to see. Historically, colder winters with more precipitation and plenty of early spring snowmelt, have led to better spawning conditions for striped bass in the Chesapeake Bay, Delaware River, Hudson River. But we'll have to wait until fall for those annual Young of Year Index results to be shared with the public. Let's hope this spring spawn is a good one. The Grundens brand was born almost 100 years ago in the small fishing village of Grundens, Sweden, when Carl A. Grunden began making waterproof oilskins to protect fishermen from the harsh conditions of the North Sea. Today, Grundens continues to bring that same level of quality and care to their extensive line of technical apparel for commercial and recreational fishermen. I've been fishing in the Grundens Bedrock wading boots and Vector Zip stocking foot waders, as well as their Portal Gore-Tex wading jacket. Got to experiment with that a little bit last fall. They've kept me safe, they kept me dry, comfortable, no matter what the conditions are. They're great for the late fall, early spring, especially, when those temperatures are a little bit cooler at night. I'm really looking forward to breaking them in a bit as the striper season gets underway. So the Portal wading jacket, for example, is packed with waterproof features like neoprene sleeve cuffs and a drop hood with a high collar that shields me from the harsh winds and pelting rain. It is specifically designed to perform in cold weather and deep wading situations so I can cast to stripers through the elements from early spring through late fall. There's truly no better fit for a Northeast surf fisherman. Check out all their wading gear and more at Grundens.com. Grundens, we are fishing. From the back bays and marshes to the oceanfront beaches, water temperatures are certainly colder now than they were this time last year, and that's thrown a bit of a wrench in the typical patterns of striped bass fishermen in places like New Jersey and Long Island, where things have definitely been off to a slower start. In northern New Jersey, there have been piles of adult bunker in the river since mid-March. Got to experience a little bit of that while I was down at the Edison Saltwater Fishing Expo with Jimmy Fee. But the bass fishing has not exactly been lights out despite that influx of big, full-grown bait. Down in Chesapeake Bay, on the other hand, since around mid-March, some of those smaller males have been moving into the spawning rivers to set up. Meanwhile, a good chunk of those larger female stripers have been busy fattening up on adult bunker in the middle to upper bay areas. A lot of those larger females are now making their way into the spawning areas. So let's check in with on-the-water columnist and fishing manager at Angler Sports Center in Annapolis, Maryland, Alex Perez.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Alex here from Angler Sports Center down in Annapolis, Maryland, here in the Chesapeake Bay. And today we're going to talk about the striper migration and what's been going on here for the past 2 weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, we've seen a lot of fish move up the bay from the southern portion of the bay to the upper parts of the bay where they're getting ready to move up into the rivers and spawn. The size of the fish have been great this year. A lot of 40 plus inch fish in the area mixed in with a lot of those males. There are 30 and under inch fish. A lot of bait has shown up too. We've been seeing a massive increase of peanut bunker and some adult bunker, so anywhere from like 5 to 10 inch bait out there. And most of these fish have been moving up from the southern portion as well into some of these middle areas here and in the Annapolis area and farther north, with a lot of the bait staging in 30 to 70 foot of water. And those fish, you can just see them feeding on the side skin, or if you have live scope, just feeding through the bait. Now, what are people using down here right now this time of the year are going to be big baits, and most of us down here are using a little bit lighter tackle to get these baits down, and we're using the diesel minnows with a GI jig or any kind of jig that's 1.5 to 2 ounces depending on the current. You can cast these out, let them hit the bottom, or just reel them throughout the bait schools. And some of these straight tails here are going to be great for getting down deeper and just creating a little more motion. If we're fishing a little bit shallower, we're going to be using the X-Wraps, classic X-Wrap, fishing anywhere 10 foot or under when you fish into the mouth of some of these rivers that feed into the bay. Some of the changes coming up are going to be essentially we have a closure here in Maryland. So the next 2 weeks, our fishery is going to shut down completely starting in April. So there's no striped bass fishery for us for the whole month of April. It doesn't reopen until May 15. So most of the anglers are going to be targeting other stuff like catfish, perch, and whatnot. And that's pretty much it. And that's it for the Chesapeake Bay, guys.
Stripers are back, and so is Quantum with their new Benchmark and Strive spinning reels. I had a chance to fish the surf with the Benchmark 6000 during the fall striper migration last year, and it is a true workhorse. The 6000 size boasts 35 pounds of fish-stopping drag power, and like all Benchmark models, it is highly resistant to heavy water pressure and salt or sand intrusion, which makes it a great choice for fishing that big fall run surf. The Strive 3000 spinning combo, which includes the same water-resistant qualities, was a top performer from the kayak and the boat when stripers and bluefish moved in and started feeding alongside those schools of large bonito last fall, so that was great. Fully sealed Strive spinning reel is complemented by a sensitive but durable graphite composite rod with a stainless steel guide train, so I can focus on fighting fish with confidence instead of worrying about chipped, scratched, or corroded guides. To learn more about how Quantum is setting the new standard in saltwater fishing, check out quantumfishing.com. Quantum, tested beyond limits. Thank you, Alex, for that detailed report. It sounds like it's been a pretty great month for anglers in the Chesapeake prior to the temporary striped bass fishing closure from April 1st to May 15th. We'll be keeping an eye on what's happening down there over the next couple of months. If you want to see what Alex is up to during the closure down in the Chesapeake Bay, follow him on Instagram at @mid_Atlantic Adventures. With that, let's kick it over to our next guest from Ocean City, New Jersey. Here's Captain Brian Williams of Badfish Charters.
Hey guys, this is Captain Brian with Badfish Charters. Just wanted to give you a mid-spring update here. Currently, some of the fishing's been some fun action. We've had fish mostly still channeled up, sort of transitioning from their winter mode or wintering holes over to some of the other areas, maybe a little closer to the inlets and areas like that. Right now, most of the striper we're seeing are anywhere from the low 20s up to, I've had a couple in that like 36, 37 inch zone. So we're seeing a mixing of fish. We're starting to see the exiting of the winter over fish, and the incoming fish from down south are coming in to set up to spawn shortly. So we're catching a few of these females that are pre-spawn. At least they have that look to them. Yeah, I'd say right now the predominant forage in the region is still mostly smaller bait. Most of these fish are on smaller offerings. Stuff like this has been the ticket right here. Fishing, this is one of those Neds, they call them, or Ned rig style plastics. Fished on a 1/4 ounce jig head, even in the deeper water. I'm fishing this down to about 18, maybe 20 feet. This has been the ticket though. It seems like I'm getting more bites out of this. But every now and then we'll mix it up still. We're getting them on like this 3-inch DOA paddle tail. And soon, with the influx of some spearing, we do have some herring and a lot of bunker setting up near our inlets right now. There's been a whole bunch of bird play out there, a whole bunch of gannet action pretty much every morning now, like clockwork. All that bait setting up to swim into the backcountry. Once that happens, I'd anticipate throwing some larger offerings, maybe something like this 5-inch DOA jerk shad. But for the most part, most of what they're eating now is still a lot of crabs, shrimp, grass shrimp, that is, stuff like that. That's where this comes in. It just seems to be the ticket for me lately. As things warm up soon, any day now, basically the next couple weeks, I think we're going to see not only an influx of fish from the south or fish that were wintering over out in the ocean. They'll be coming in now to set up to spawn or just to feed and following some of that bait fish into the back bay. We'll be switching over on the flats to throwing things like this mirror lure, Top Dog Junior lure, things like that, or the DOA PT7, another top water walk the dog style lure, when we get up onto some of those flats. Fly fishing wise, lately, what we've been throwing has been things like the clouser here, stuff like that. Soon, though, we'll be switching it up again, just like I did Don't Spin. We'll be switching it up to stuff like this topwater gurgler here and things like that. So I'd anticipate that fishing to keep picking up from here on out. Water temperatures in the back bay, for the most part, are in the low 50s. The ocean's still taking its time catching up. We've had a lot of wind and a lot of rough seas out there, so that's kind of been throwing it off. Water temp in the ocean still coming in around 46. So if you find those flats and those shallow areas where the mud's getting heated up, that's probably where the next couple weeks, as these fish transition up shallower, you'll start to find the action there. I do have some availability coming up in the next couple weeks. So if you guys want to get out there, just give me a call.
Thank you to Captain Brian Williams for chiming in from southern New Jersey. You can follow Captain Brian on Instagram at Captain Brian Williams if you're looking to book a striped bass fishing charter this spring. Our next report is brought to you by CanyonRunner. The CanyonRunner virtual captain and tracking map is coming soon to inshore anglers chasing stripers and all other inshore species for as low as $99 a year. It serves as your co-captain, providing weather, water temperature, and safety information with a built-in warning system and so much more. Gain the ability to track each and every member and pro staff boat in real time on one page, one map, one website, one helm. Know where the fleet is at all times and extend your network of buddy boats in real time. Learn more at www.canyonrunner.com. CanyonRunner, why don't you guys take it away?
All right. Welcome back on the water, and Matt. Hope everyone's doing well. CanyonRunner folks are very excited to be part of your weekly podcast for stripers. And we're going to kick this off with saying that it was one heck of a cold winter, and the water's cold up and down the line. So what we're going to be showcasing, and any of you who watched the offshore reports last year saw our CanyonRunner proprietary virtual captain system and our tracking map. The map pulls in everything you're ever going to want when you're fishing offshore. And right now, what we want is warm water. And so we have our own water temperature service on this map. You can see, if I zoom out here, you can see the Gulf Stream. You can see everything down in Florida. These are all our boats. There's some folks fishing the Bahamas right now, but we're talking about stripers. As we zoom in, unfortunately, you're going to see this. Offshore out in the ocean, just down the line off of Long Island, it's all 40, 43. You can see the temperatures changing as I move the cursor. Move down the line off to Delaware, 45, 46. It's still way too cold. I mean, we're a month away from fish being up here. It was a very cold winter, and the waters are very cold. Now, I'll get into some of the reports. As you move north, obviously, you move up the Hudson's, the water's just going to get colder and colder. So where's really the first bass going to show up when you're looking at that warmer water? Let's just continue with the water temperature. You go up to Delaware right now, March 30th, we've got boats fishing way up here off the bank. And again, it's like off the bank in the shallows. You're going to see some warmer water, but they're way up to Delaware. Again, nothing out in the bays. A little bit warmer down in Chesapeake. Just touch on that a little bit, but it's starting. You can see here's your 50, right? So there's a little bit more activity down this way. Again, this is the water temperature on our map. The beautiful thing about it is it goes back in here, so folks can start using this now. Let's stick with the weather a second. So how are we going to see everything warming up? What we're going to do is look at your temperature. So hold up the temperature for, just do New York City because it's right in the middle. One of the things forecasts can do well, you've heard of us talk about the offshore forecast, they can't forecast the wind very well, but they can get weather temperature patterns pretty consistently. Now, yesterday, as you know, it was almost 80 degrees in most places. It warmed up the water a lot. The fish should start moving. It's going to be 70 again on Monday. It dips down again to 48, 70 again on Thursday. There's a lot of, and then what you really want to look at is the nighttime temperatures, the 45, 49, 60. If it's going to be 36 on Tuesday, 42 on Wednesday night, that's where you get the water having a hard time to warm up because it warms up a little bit during the day, but it dips right back down in these cold, and you can see how cold it stays for long Tuesday through Wednesday. You need the temperature just staying above 50 degrees consistently when it'll be locked in, or at least staying well above 50 for longer. You need sunnier days versus rainy days. Cloudy days aren't going to warm up the water, but sunny days are. So going to help a little bit this week coming up. It's probably, go back to the map, it's probably a couple more weeks until you even get stuff out in the bays. I wish there was a lot more to talk about. This is actually some of our guys giant tuna fishing down in the Carolinas. But as for the bass, it's a slow start. Again, it's Sunday, March 30th. It's cold everywhere. These are the temperatures from yesterday. We've spoken with several people fishing back here. They had the 78-degree weather yesterday. It's really, really slow. You're talking just a couple fish per trip. There's nothing going on. as you get further this way. We have a couple of our pro staff, our commercial fishermen. They're gill netters. They're starting to at least get out there and look around and preset some nets. They're not seeing water remotely close enough to sustain any bass. And again, this is, a month away at the earliest, but it's the start to the season. And when they start up here, they're going to start up the rivers, up the creeks. This is where you're going to see them. Bass literally hibernate there all the winter on the bottom, and as soon as it warms up, and a lot of folks say, and Captain Sid said it, Captain Freddie Gamboa and Andrews Toy told me, it's that 50 degrees is kind of the magic number. So unfortunately, until we see that in more and more areas, there's just not going to be too much to talk about, except for if you haven't gotten your boat ready yet, it's time. And depending on where you are, it's already happened. Again, up in here, there's plenty of fish to be caught if you want to go back up there, if you got the boat to do it. If you want to fish all the way up here off the banks, there's fish here as well. But that just means if you're more of a bay and ocean person, we're talking now just a couple weeks. It's time to get moving. We'll have a lot more to share as we go forward. We're really excited about being involved. And when you start seeing 50, 100 boats out on this map, back and forth, all this area, it gets a lot more interesting as well. So we hope to have a great season with you folks and a happy kickoff to 2025. Everyone take care. And Matt, thanks so much.
All right, big thanks again to CanyonRunner and Alex Perez and Captain Brian Williams for their input this week. We really appreciate that. On the Water Striper Migration Reports are also brought to you by Garmin Marine. Whether you're setting up to hold position on a rip line or inching your way toward a boulder-strewn beach, Garmin's force crack and trolling motor is up to the task in any saltwater environment. With autopilot features like anchor lock, cruise control, and route following, which can all be controlled via wireless remote, this bow-mounted trolling motor is built to help you make the most of your inshore fishing trips regardless of the conditions. The force crack and trolling motor is available in a range of shaft lengths from 48 to 90 inches for bay boats, center consoles, Downy-style hulls, and more. Learn more about the force crack and trolling motor and everything Garmin Marine has to offer at www.garmin.com. Garmin, engineered on the inside for life on the outside. So not much happening right now down south. Everything's kind of off to a slower start like we talked about. We're really waiting for those water temperatures to kind of warm up a little bit. We can expect a kind of a change in the migration patterns once some of those stripers complete their spawning efforts in the Chesapeake Bay and water temperatures warm up. I would look to the full moon. I believe it's the April pink moon or pink supermoon or something like that. It's happening on April 12th this year, so look for some fish movement around that time. We'll have another report before that week. For more migration updates, follow On the Water Magazine and Striper Cup on Instagram. And if you haven't signed up for Striper Cup, make sure you do so. It's a 20-week catch and release based striped bass fishing tournament. You can win weekly prizes just for taking photos of your fish and uploading those photos to stripercup.com. Awesome prizes from a lot of our sponsors like Penn, Yeti, Bubba. Definitely check that out if you haven't done so already. And make sure you tune in again next week for another Striper Migration Report from On the Water. Thanks for watching, guys.